Would you sacrifice what you love most if God asked you to? This was the difficult choice that Abraham faced, a test of faith so great that it is still remembered by many people around the world. How could anyone accept this? Let's explore this emotional story and understand what happened. In the vast fields of Haran, where the horizon embraces the sky in a daily spectacle of colors and light, Abram lived a peaceful life, surrounded by family and the comforts of home. Until that moment, his life was simple and calm. But everything was about to change when a mysterious and powerful voice spoke to him. During a moment of deep silence, he received a sacred promise, a request that seemed to come from heaven. "Leave your country, your people, and your father's household and go to the land I will show you." With this promise came the vision of countless blessings, of a great nation that would emerge from his lineage. Abram, standing before this powerful and comforting voice, found himself on the threshold of a grand destiny. Faith, that mysterious and powerful bond between the human and the divine, began to flourish in his heart, with the promise of descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky. Driven by a newfound conviction, Abram prepared to obey. With each preparation, each item packed, he felt the weight and magnitude of his decision. Leaving meant abandoning everything he knew and loved, but the call of something greater was irresistible. As Abram and his caravan left Haran, the sands silently shifted beneath their feet, each grain witnessing the beginning of a journey that would change history. He was on his way to Canaan, not just toward a new land, but also toward a new covenant, a promise waiting to be fulfilled under the vast sky that would bear witness to his faith. Crossing the border into unknown lands, Abraham, guided by the divine promise, set foot in Canaan, a land of vast horizons and even greater promises. The ground beneath his feet was more than just earth. It was the stage of an eternal covenant, a pact sealed between heaven and earth. There, among the oaks of Moriah, God appeared to Abraham, reaffirming the promises of prosperity and countless descendants. It was as if every breath of wind among the trees whispered the certainty of these words. In Canaan, however, the promises of abundance were quickly challenged. The land, though promised, was not empty. There were peoples, cultures, and conflicts that preceded Abraham's arrival. Moreover, a severe famine tested his faith and resilience, forcing him to go down to Egypt in search of refuge. In Egypt, the complexities of life and ethical tensions became palpable. Abraham, fearing for his life due to the beauty of Sarah, his wife, found himself entangled in lies and misunderstandings with Pharaoh. This episode not only tested his moral integrity, but also reinforced the divine protection over his family, as they were blessed and returned to Canaan richer than before. With renewed resources and lessons learned, Abraham and his family returned to the promised land, ready to face new challenges and reaffirm the covenant that was destined for them, advancing in their journey of faith and destiny. Back in Canaan, the land of promises and trials, Abraham found himself facing a painful paradox. The promise of numerous descendants was still overshadowed by Sarah's barrenness. Amidst this anguish, Sarah's patience wore thin, like the leather of her old sandals, and in a decision marked by both despair and hope, she offered her Egyptian servant Hagar to Abraham as an alternative to fulfill the divine promise. The relationship between Abraham and Hagar, approved by Sarah, was complicated and brought unexpected results. The birth of Ishmael brought joy to a household that had been quiet in waiting, but it also created tensions and rivalries. Ishmael, being Abraham's son but not Sarah's, represented both the fulfillment and the complication of the promise. The arrival of Ishmael served as a tangible reminder that divine promises operate in mysterious ways and times. While Abraham welcomed his son, his heart remained bound to the promise of an heir through Sarah, which still seemed like a distant dream. The now more complex family dynamics set the stage for new lessons and adjustments. In this context of joy, mixed with conflict, God chose to appear to Abraham once again, ready to renew and expand his covenant. This new encounter would not only reaffirm the old promises, but also introduce transformative elements into the lives of Abraham and Sarah, marking a new chapter in their journey of faith and challenges. At the twilight of a day like any other, when the shadows stretched across the land like a cloak, Abraham once again received a visit from the divine. In this encounter, marked by the supernatural, Abram's name was changed to Abraham, a symbol of his new identity as the father of many nations. This renaming was accompanied by a renewal of promises. Sarah would be the mother of nations, and from her would come the long-awaited son, the guarantee of the covenant between God and Abraham. The depth of this promise was so great that it was sealed with the ritual of circumcision, a physical act that marked the flesh of the men in his household as a perpetual sign of an eternal covenant. Circumcision, more than a mark, was a constant reminder that their faith must be as unwavering as the permanence of this scar on their bodies. This demonstration of faith and obedience was noticed by the divine, and soon what seemed impossible happened. Sarah, who had laughed in disbelief upon hearing the promise, found herself in the midst of a miracle. The announcement that Isaac would soon be born ignited a flame of hope in the hearts of both, now strengthened by the certainty that what is impossible for humans is merely an opportunity for God's wondrous deeds. With the promise of Isaac, Abraham and Sarah prepared not only for the birth of their son, but also for the lasting impact of this blessing that would spread through many generations. The journey of faith, now more tangible than ever, was about to take its next great step. As the day dawned and the stars gave way to the rising sun, the promised miracle materialized. Isaac was born. The laughter that had escaped Sarah's lips in doubt turned into pure joy, a sound that echoed through the hills and valleys, as vivid and real as the child in his mother's arms. Abraham, at 100 years of age, looked at his son with a mixture of awe and deep gratitude. Isaac was the embodiment of divine promises, a tangible sign that there are no barriers to the blessings of heaven. Life in the camp changed with Isaac's arrival. The daily routine still included the usual chores, but now it revolved around a new axis of joy and celebration. Abraham and Sarah, despite their advanced age, found themselves rejuvenated by the love and possibilities that their son's life promised. However, Isaac's arrival also rekindled latent tensions. Ishmael, Abraham's older son with Hagar, grew up in the shadow of this new heir, and the disputes between the brothers symbolized deeper conflicts within the family. This tension was a reminder that divine promises often unfold amid complex human challenges. Amid this family dynamic, God was about to ask Abraham for the ultimate sacrifice. This request would test Abraham's faith like never before, challenging everything he had prayed for, hoped for, and lived for. The journey of faith was far from peaceful, and the next chapter promised to be the most difficult of all. In the stillness of a morning that seemed like any other, Abraham was awakened by a voice he knew well, the voice that had transformed his life. This time, however, God's call carried a weight that would make any human heart hesitate. God asked Abraham the unimaginable, to sacrifice his son Isaac, the son of the promise, as an offering on one of the mountains he would indicate. Though stunned by such a request, Abraham rose early, prepared his donkey, cut the wood, and set out in silence toward the designated place. Isaac, unaware of his father's final intentions, accompanied him, carrying the wood and walking beside the man to whom he trusted his life. "Father," he called, "here is the wood and the fire, but where is the lamb for the sacrifice?" Abraham, with a heavy heart, could only respond, "God will provide, my son." When they arrived at the appointed place, Abraham built an altar with his own trembling hands, arranged the wood, and with a broken heart bound Isaac, placing him on the altar. Every movement was an echo of his shattered soul, but his faith did not waver. He raised the knife, ready to fulfill the divine command. However, at this moment of extreme obedience, when despair seemed to merge with faith, something extraordinary was about to happen. The story of Abraham and Isaac would take an unexpected turn, revealing even more profoundly the nature of the God whom Abraham served faithfully. At the height of the tension, when the silence of Mount Moriah seemed to absorb every sound, God's voice cut through the air like lightning, halting Abraham's descending knife. An angel of the Lord called out his name, urgently commanding him not to lay a hand on the boy. "Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son," the angel said. Relief and gratitude mingled with surprise as Abraham, with tears in his eyes, lowered the knife, looking at Isaac, who still lay on the altar, confused but unharmed. At that moment, Abraham's eyes turned to a nearby thicket where a ram was caught by its horns. He quickly took it as a substitute for the sacrifice of his son. This act of divine providence not only saved Isaac, but also reinforced Abraham's faith in God's justice and mercy. The sacrificial ram represented substitution and redemption, themes that would echo through the generations. With a relieved heart and strengthened faith, Abraham named that place, "The Lord Will Provide," an eternal reminder of divine provision and faithfulness. As they descended the mountain together, father and son shared a moment of deep connection and understanding, knowing that both of their lives had been preserved by a greater hand. This event not only marked the end of an extreme test, but also the beginning of a new phase in Abraham's life, a phase of rewards and reaffirmation of divine promises. After the intense episode on Mount Moriah, Abraham's life returned to a rhythm of serenity and deep reflection on the ways of God. However, the cycle of life continued, and the inevitable reality of mortality approached when Sarah, Abraham's beloved wife and Isaac's mother, came to the end of her days. She passed away in Kiriath Arba, also known as Hebron, leaving Abraham and Isaac in mourning. Abraham's grief was not only for the loss of a wife, but also for the companion of a journey that had transformed the course of their lives. To honor her memory and ensure a suitable resting place, Abraham approached the Hittites to purchase a plot of land. He chose the cave of Machpelah because it was a dignified and secluded place, appropriate for the burial of his wife and future generations. This act of purchasing the cave was significant as it marked the first tangible possession of land in the promised Canaan, a concrete sign of the divine promise gradually being fulfilled. The negotiation was conducted with respect and fairness, reflecting the mutual respect between Abraham and his neighbors. The acquisition of the cave of Machpelah not only served as a burial site for Sarah, but also as a symbol of Abraham and his family's integration and acceptance in that region. With Sarah properly honored and a burial place established, Abraham turned his attention to Isaac's future, realizing that it was essential to ensure the continuation of the divine promise through his son, who still needed a companion to share in the life and vision that guided their family. With Sarah's death and the passage of time weighing on his heart, Abraham contemplated Isaac's future with a mixture of hope and urgency. He knew that the continuity of the divine promise depended on Isaac forming a family, yet Isaac remained unmarried. Determined to see his son well married, Abraham made a decision that would shape the future of his lineage. He summoned his oldest and most trusted servant, the steward of all his possessions, and made him swear not to choose a wife for Isaac from the Canaanite women among whom they lived. Instead, the servant was to return to Abraham's homeland, to the city of his brother Nahor, to find a suitable wife for Isaac, ensuring that she would share the values and faith of Abraham's family. The servant set out with gifts and Abraham's blessings, crossing deserts and mountains, guided by faith in the God who had led his master through so many journeys. Upon arriving in the horse city at dusk, he prayed for a sign to guide his choice, asking that the woman destined for Isaac would offer him water and also water his camels, a test that would reveal her generosity and virtue. It wasn't long before Rebekah, with her jar on her shoulder, approached the well. The answer to his prayer came when she, spontaneously and with a spirit of hospitality, offered water to the stranger and his animals, marking the beginning of a new and promising chapter in the story of Abraham and his descendants. Rebekah, with her water jar and generosity, emerged not only as the answer to the servant's prayers, but as the key to the continuation of Abraham's legacy. Guided by divine providence, the servant explained his mission to Rebekah and her family, recounting the events that had led him there and the oath he had made to Abraham. Recognizing God's hand in this encounter, Rebekah's family agreed to the marriage, and Rebekah courageously accepted to leave her home to become part of a greater promise. With Rebekah by his side, the servant returned to Canaan, and Isaac's meeting with Rebekah was marked by a moment of great beauty. Isaac, meditating in the field at dusk, looked up and saw the camels approaching. Rebekah dismounted from her camel, and upon learning that the man approaching was Isaac, she covered herself with a veil in a gesture of respect and modesty. The connection between them was immediate, and Isaac found comfort in Rebekah after the loss of his mother, Sarah. The marriage of Isaac and Rebekah symbolized the continuation of Abraham's covenant, a union that would strengthen the promises made to Abraham under the stars of Canaan. As Isaac and Rebekah began their life together, Abraham watched, content and grateful, knowing that his faith and the decisions guided by that faith had ensured the perpetuation of his lineage and the divine promises. As Isaac's life flourished alongside Rebekah, Abraham, now advanced in years, found a new chapter of love and continuity with Keturah. From this union, children were born, joining Abraham's great family and further expanding his descendants. Each child was a reflection of God's promise that continued to unfold, even as Abraham's life drew to its close. With the wisdom that only years can bring, Abraham managed his legacy with a firm eye on the future. He ensured that Isaac was established as his principal heir, maintaining the line of the promise God had made to him many years before. However, he did not neglect his other children. He endowed them with gifts and sent them eastward to establish their own nations, thus avoiding future conflicts with Isaac. This strategic vision showed that Abraham not only trusted in the divine promises, but also actively worked to ensure their fulfillment in an environment of peace and prosperity for all his children. His decisions shaped the future of numerous tribes and ensured that the influence of his faith and legacy would transcend his own life. In Abraham's final days, surrounded by an extensive and diverse family, he reflected on the journey he had traveled. From a man without children, called to leave everything he knew, to the patriarch of a great nation, his life was a testament to the power of faith and divine promise. Abraham passed away at an advanced age, satisfied with life, leaving behind a family and a nation, each carrying a spark of his faith and determination. He was buried by Isaac and Ishmael beside Sarah in the cave of Machpelah, in a symbolic gesture of unity and respect between the brothers who had once been figures of latent conflict. This moment of reconciliation between Isaac and Ishmael, under the eternal roof that Abraham and Sarah now shared, sealed a cycle of life, death, and legacy. As the land of Canaan continued to thrive with the lives of his descendants, the story of Abraham and the divine promise made to him would not know an end, but would continue to reverberate through Isaac and through Rebekah, who carried twins in her womb, destined to perpetuate and challenge their grandfather's legacy. The story of faith, trials, and promises would move forward, each generation facing its own challenges and lessons, always under the benevolent shadow of Abraham. Abraham's journey is a story rich in faith, obedience, and fulfilled promises. From the moment he heard the divine call in Haran until his final days, his life was a testament to unwavering trust. Abraham not only accepted the call to leave his homeland without knowing where he was going, but he was also willing to sacrifice his son Isaac, believing against all odds that God would provide. Abraham's actions, though extraordinary, mirror the struggles and victories of human faith. Through his journey, we learn the importance of listening and obeying, even when the path ahead is uncertain or the request seems beyond our understanding. Abraham's ability to act on God's promise, even when circumstances seem to directly or cruelly contradict that promise, reveals a profound truth about the nature of faith. The moral lesson of Abraham's life is not simply that obedience brings reward, but that true faith involves trust and action, even in the face of the unknown. This story invites each of us to reflect on how we can respond to the calls we receive in our lives, encouraging us to walk with courage and faith, guided by the certainty that behind every challenge lies a greater promise. If you enjoyed Abraham's story and want to continue following other stories of faith and overcoming, don't forget to like this video and share it with your loved ones. And of course, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new content. Together, let's explore more powerful lessons from the Bible.